Olivia had always been a planner. She thrived on structure, but when her job became unbearably stressful, her carefully constructed life began to crumble. Sleep eluded her, and soon, anxiety festered into gnawing paranoia. It began with the small things, a flicker of movement at the edge of her vision, the rustle of leaves when no breeze was present. She dismissed these as stress-induced quirks until one night, after another sleepless evening, she heard a soft whisper echoing through her dark apartment. Olivia. Her heart raced. "Hello?" she called out, voice shaky. Silence answered, heavy and suffocating. Dismissing it as her imagination, she forced herself to bed, but sleep would not come. Instead, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling as if something was watching her from the shadows. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew more insistent. "Olivia, you're not alone." The voice would flutter through her mind just as she started to drift off, yanking her back to wakefulness. She started to dread the dark. She could almost see figures lurking in her periphery, their forms shifting and indistinct. At work, her colleagues whispered about her behavior. She could feel their stares, could sense the hushed conversations. "She's losing it," she overheard one of them say. The thought lodged itself into her mind, taking root and festering. The days blurred together. She stopped going out, convinced that the shadows were following her. Grocery trips turned into frantic dashes, and she began to avoid the windows, fearing the eyes she imagined watching from outside. One evening, while pouring a glass of water, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection, but it wasn't just her. There was something behind her. A dark figure standing in the hallway, its shape grotesque and shifting. She spun around, heart hammering, but there was nothing there, just the empty hallway stretching into the darkness. Desperate for relief, Olivia called her friend Rachel. "I think I'm losing my mind," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I keep hearing things. I feel like I'm being watched. Maybe you should see someone, Liv," Rachel suggested gently. "Talk to a therapist, it might help." Olivia hung up, feeling more isolated than ever. What if she was truly losing her grip? That night, the whispers grew louder. "Olivia, come play." They echoed off the walls and the shadows deepened, pooling in the corners of her mind. She tried to block it out, but the anxiety pulsed through her, a living thing. In a frenzy, she gathered her courage and began searching for the source of the whispers. "Show yourself," she shouted, voice cracking. The shadows twisted and coiled, deepening around her, their whispers growing into a cacophony. "Olivia, you can't escape." Panic surged as she stumbled backward, her back hitting the wall. She slid down to the floor, the darkness pressing in around her. Desperate, she squeezed her eyes shut, trying to drown out the chaos. "Please, just leave me alone." Suddenly, a soft touch brushed against her shoulder. She opened her eyes to see a small girl standing before her, pale and ethereal. "Why are you afraid?" the girl asked, her voice sweet yet haunting. Who are you?" Olivia stammered, bewildered. "I'm your friend," the girl replied, her eyes wide and innocent. "I've always been here, just like the others." With horror, Olivia realized that the shadows had taken form, pulling her deeper into their web. "I don't want this," she cried, scrambling to her feet. The girl's expression shifted, darkening. "But you invited us in, Olivia. You wanted to play." Screams bubbled in Olivia's throat as she backed away, but the shadows turned, engulfing her. Their whispers became a roar, drowning out her thoughts. "You're one of us now." With a final desperate gasp, she threw herself against the door and it swung open. She stumbled into the hallway, gasping for breath. The shadows slithered out after her, latching onto her limbs, pulling her back towards the abyss. "Help!" she screamed, but the only response was the laughter of the dark figures, their whispers merging into a haunting melody. "You belong to us." Olivia stumbled through her apartment, desperate to escape, but every shadow seemed to mock her, growing more tangible, more real. She turned to flee down the stairs, but the shadows enveloped her, coiling around her legs, dragging her down. In an act of defiance, she hurled herself out onto the street, the cold night air hitting her like a wave. But the whispers didn't fade. Instead, they reverberated in her mind, drowning her in a tide of fear and despair. You can't escape. As the sun began to rise, casting light into the darkness, the shadows retreated slightly, but their whispers persisted, lingering in the corners of her mind. Olivia knew she couldn't escape them. They were a part of her now, shadows woven into the fabric of her reality, an eternal reminder of her paranoia and the darkness that dwelled within.